Okay, we have a lot of layers that we've been working with. I'm going to really pare things down to show you this last trick. It is the house music chord trick. We're going to work with some rootless chords, very jazzy sounding. You don't need to be a jazz pianist to make it work. I'm going to give you the shortcut. Let's dive in. Okay, so at this time, I'm going to consolidate everything into thin little layers and just mute them all. We can even group all these groups and just say old stuff in case we want to bring some of it back, but visually now that is all tucked away. What I'm going to do is bring in a synth sound, and it doesn't really have to be anything too specific as long as it doesn't already have multiple notes within it. So sometimes you'll get a synth that when you play a C, you're actually hearing a C and a G, or maybe a full chord, C, E, G, B, which is essentially kind of what we're going to be doing. You want to make sure it's just single notes and generally not too thick or muddy sounding. I'm going to use an instance of electric, which is native within Ableton. We're going to listen to a couple sounds and pull one in. Dan piano. All right, sounds terrible, but we're going to use it for the sake of what we're doing here. This will sound fine. So when I hit different notes, I'm hearing the individual notes being played. We're going to go over to MIDI effects, which in this case is just above my video here. You're going to select it and you're going to bring in the Chord Tool. And this is going to go in front of anything else that you have within this bottom little rack space here. And you have 6 different ways to be able to shift your note. The type of chord we're going to be playing is a rootless minor 9 with the 7 assumed. Sounds super fancy. Let me explain. Let's say I have an A minor chord, A, C, and E. I'm going to get rid of the A, which makes it rootless. And I'm going to play one note up, which is the 9, and one note down, which is the minor 7. A tone above the A and a tone below the A. This gives us 4 out of the 6 notes available. And then we're going to play A and E, a 5th, down below, bringing that root back in. When I said the 7th is assumed, what I meant is generally in jazz harmony, if you're playing a 9 on a chord, any of the lower extensions can be assumed. So if you have 1, 3, 5, that's your major chord or minor chord, you add the 9, you can also choose to add the 7. It's very much something that is available to you. So we have, instead of A, C, E, we have A, E, G, B, C, E. So from this bottom A, we are down 12 semitones from where our chord initially started. So we're going to set this first shift to -12. The second shift, the second note or the second lowest note was down 5 semitones. Then we're down 2 semitones, up 2, up 3, and up 7. Whew. So that is the A, E, G, B, C, E, that set of notes. But now I only have to play one note to achieve that sound. This phaser is intense. Let's turn that off. So it kind of has that house or even some drum and bass or UK garage, like disclosure sort of sound. It sounds really cool when you do octave jumps and also pitch bends. So you get parts that sound like this. So between the pitch bend and me jumping octaves using my thumb and pinky, you can get some really cool sounds. If I was to take our drum beat, I'm going to move it over. This is probably not the right tempo. 125 actually should work. If we take our drum beat and just duplicate it over here, I'm going to play a little sort of housey part with it, and then I'll show you one more trick afterwards. So it sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's our basic part. It's not my favorite part in the world. It's passable, it works. But what's cool is if you duplicate this, we're going to call it bass, and we're going to pull in some sort of a bass sound. Let's go with Serum, good old Serum. And we're just going to pick a basic bass sound. We now have a foundation that follows this harmonic movement just as single notes. Now, it's important to mention that I duplicated it. We actually don't want the chord tool on the duplicated version. You could also just create a new MIDI track and just duplicate the MIDI information down. But let's say we have something like fuzz bass, pretty simple bass to get started. And I'm actually going to set it so it's a more simple low pass filter. We're going to bring that down so it's quite smooth and bring the volume down and blend it in. So some subtle issues with the pitch bending, but at the end of the day, this still sounds pretty awesome. I could even just get rid of the pitch bending altogether and just sort of move between the notes, but it might just be a matter of either using the pitch bend through the MIDI control in Ableton or through the pitch bend automation specifically within Serum itself. Lastly, you also want to bring that down an octave so it sounds like a bass. That's going to bug me. So let's go in and let's solve that. When we go envelopes, MIDI control, this pitch bend, again, it does some weird things when notes re-trigger, but that's okay. It's easy to fix. Boom, boom. Each time these notes re-trigger, we just kind of do like a little palette cleanser for it. It sounds like this. You could maybe even go an octave lower. Let's see how low we can go. And what's cool about this is you started with a chord using the chord tool. I'm jumping around to almost nonsensical notes. I don't even really need to stay in key. This sounds good no matter what you hit. You can be as chromatic as you want, and it tends to work quite well. Duplicate the MIDI information down into a bass part and then lower down the notes, and you end up getting something that with the right type of beat, I don't think this is the right type of beat, but if you have the right type of drum beat, then you get something quite passable for house or UK garage, and then you throw some vocals over top and you're set. Now, to be clear, you don't have to use this exact chord. It's just used a lot. You could go with a major version. So instead of, and I would consider writing these numbers down, -12, -5, -2, 2, 3, 7, you would go -12, -5, -1, and then you would go up 2, up 4, up 7. That would sound like this. Now, these are the major equivalent of what we had before. They are major 9 chords, rootless, and again, this 7 is assumed. You could even go more basic. You could go down 12, up 5, and 0. So that's root 5th octave. And then you could build up 4, 7, and 11. So that's like root 5th octave and then 3rd, 5th, 7th of a major 7 chord. That would sound like this. That to me almost sounds a bit more video gamey, but it works. So you can play around with not even using all of these different sort of knobs. You could have 0 and 4 and 7, a basic major chord. Or 0, 3, and 7, a basic minor chord. But it's going to sound better with these jazzier chords. Think about this. You're listening to an old record and there's a chord you've never played before. It sounds great. Maybe it's that minor 9 chord. And you take that little sample and you bring it into your sampler. Now, any pitch that you play on your sampler is that chord moved around. It's not diatonic. It's not considering what key are we in, when should this chord be major, when should it be minor. It's just always that quality. It's always minor 9 and you're moving it around. That's part of what gives this drum and bass, house, and UK garage sort of sound, is going to old disco and soul records, finding that chord, and just simply repitching it. And the chord tool is a great way in Ableton to be able to achieve that. One thing I'll also mention that's really cool is I've reset everything back to that minor 9 sound. The strum can be really fun to play around with. Instead of, you end up getting something like, you can really overdo it. But chaotically, it kind of works. Now you can also strum the notes up, which is to the right, or down, which has even more of a video gamey sort of sound. You can crescendo into each strum. So it's getting louder as the strum progresses. Now tension works with strums, so instead of just strumming down or up through notes, you can determine how fast or slow the strum sounds. And then again, crescendo is how loud you progress over time within that strum. So here's tension set to -100. Moving up. Almost no strum at all. So when we're at 0, that feels appropriate, but a little bit higher up, but a little bit lower down. We get a faster strum and a little bit higher up. we get a more separated sounding strum. So feel free to play around with all the little settings within the chord tool, but the main thing I wanted to show you is how to create some fun jazzy chords and then just plunk around, like just to show you, just to truly prove this. If I was to just move over some MIDI information here, I'm going to open it up and I'm going to play a random part. So E, I don't even care what the notes are. This is probably a bad note choice. Same with this. Same with these, but hey, we're just literally trying to create something really simple. And then let's maybe do 2 of those just so we have a nice even section. I don't know how this is going to sound. We're going to go for it. I'm going to turn off strum. It sounds like this. Okay, so yes, it sounds bad, but in the context of a beat and supporting it with a bass line so it feels like a more intentional part, we end up getting this. Okay, so it's this little doo-doo that sounds kind of weird. Maybe we just move these over a bit. I don't know if this is going to remedy things straight away, but it could help. Let's give it a try. So you make some small adjustments from what was a random starting point. I would still adjust from here, but you can see there's not a lot of adjustment needed. You can hear what still sounds off, but it's a very forgiving approach. So that's it for using the chord tool in Ableton. It gives a fantastic resampled sort of sound, like you've stole a sound or a chord from an old disco record and you're repitching it within your house production. In the next class, we're going to talk about combining different ideas, which we have done throughout, but a bit of a summarization of what we've talked about within the course and combining these different ideas that I've given you along the way. I'll see you in that class.